Seed starting, a valuable skill for any gardener, and especially if you want to be self-sufficient and grow a lot of food, and if you want to do a lot of succession timing and maybe even start seeds indoors to get a jump start on the season, becomes crucial. My seed starting capabilities at this point in time are not very good, so in this video we're going to explore what do seeds need to germinate, and what have I been doing and what am I planning on doing going forward. I have about 3 weeks left of my current growing season before my first frost date, so I don't have a lot of time in which to sow all my cool weather crops. So let's quickly discuss what do seeds actually need in order to germinate. They need heat, they need moisture. They don't actually need soil. In the world of hydroponics, they don't use, they use soilless mediums. So they'll use like, cotton and stuff like that. So soil is not actually the deciding factor for something to germinate. And I actually found a weed seed that had germinated in between 2 bricks. I mean, come on, bro. So literally all a seed needs is adequate moisture in which to soften the seed coat and rehydrate the nutrient solution within. They need the correct temperatures in which to germinate, because the correct temperature coupled with the correct moisture, the seed itself, it starts sending hormones so that the embryo within starts consuming those nutrients and then starts sending out the first radical, roots and shoot, you've got a plant. So you don't need soil. All you need is adequate heat and adequate moisture. If it's that simple, then why am I struggling? So I think there's a combination of factors. If you are using soil, which I am, I have been using different types of soils. I've tried using garden soil. The problem with that is it tends to compact. I think then what happens is it offers too much resistance for the young seeds to germinate properly, come up. They're not very healthy, then they die very easily. What I have also noticed is when the soil compacts, the water tends to stay on top of the surface of the soil. It doesn't really sink through, or it doesn't really filter through. So I think with a very compacted soil mix, you don't have the required capillary action within the soil voids so that the water can actually permeate through and percolate to all the areas of the soil. So you end up having like a very wet layer and a very dry layer. Also, what I have been doing, on the topic of water, I have tried using just a hand watering canister. That tends to uplift the seeds, then they dry out, and obviously that's not what you want. I have then switched to, I just took a 2-liter milk jug, I poked some holes in the top, and then now got a nice soft showering thing for essentially for my young seedlings and for my seeds. I do find that works quite nicely, but there's some better ways that I can go about this, but it's definitely helps. As for the soil mix that I'm using, this is what I'm using. It's basically it's potting mix with a little bit of compost in there, and some sawdust. I have also sieved this. I'll put up a photo of all the stuff that I took out, so it's a nice fine grain. The purpose of the sawdust is actually to retain moisture, because I don't have proper coconut core. You can see here what I've taken from some of the stuff that was left over from my snake's terrarium build. It's all this very fibrousy coconut core. There's a lot of coconut husk still in here, and with the soil, if you do go the soil route, you don't want a lot of large particulates in there like this, because that'll essentially create a lot of gaps in the seeds. Won't get proper contact with the soil in which to germinate. And then this is just some of the unsieved potting mix, and then this is a little bit of, this is just a problem, to be honest. I mixed all this together just to see what it come out like, and you can see there's still a lot of large things in here, a lot of fibers from the coconut cord. So this is not actually what you want. This is not ideal, to be honest. So yeah, so I'm going to continue with this. Oh, and then just nutrients. I mentioned that plants don't need, I didn't mention anything about nutrients to germinate, which is true. So what happens is all the nutrient within the seed itself that gets utilized up until and probably a little bit afterwards, from when the first set of true leaves form. A seed has enough nutrient within it so that it can send out roots and shoots, the first set of false leaves, which is the cotyledons, and then also to then start producing the first set of leaves. Once it's produced its first set of leaves, then only is it able to start photosynthesizing, and once it's able to photosynthesize, that's when it needs nutrients and water from the, well, not water, but yes, nutrients from the surrounding environment to then uptake that nutrient, uptake the solar radiation from the sun, convert all the starches into sugars, and that whole process. So the compost that's in here is for a little bit of moisture retention, but it's mostly so that once those first set of true leaves form and the seedlings need nutrients, then they have nutrients within the cell itself, instead of me having to fertilize with like a liquid fertilizer or something. So what I've been doing, I've literally, because I don't have heat mats, right? The only heated area in my dwelling is my snake's terrarium, and I can't really put all of this in my snake's terrarium. So what I've been doing is, all here on my porch, all these porcelain tiles, they soak up heat throughout the day. So with all the seeds that's here, this creates essentially like a mini heat mat. Then in the evenings, all that heat that has been absorbed by all this thermal mass then gets released to at least help the seedlings out a little bit in the evenings. I used to, so I built this when I first started struggling with seeds and stuff. The idea was that I'd create a mini greenhouse, I'd put everything in here, but the positioning isn't really good, so it doesn't actually get much sun. It's a bit of a locational issue on my part, so I actually need to update this and whatever. But here what happened is the seedlings weren't getting enough heat to germinate. I've seen much better germination literally just putting in here. Also, in terms of heat and moisture, what I have been doing is, on some of my seedlings, I've just been using these little mini greenhouses. All this is a food carton where you get veggies, herbs, meats and stuff. I've just taken the top because it fits quite nicely over the 6-cell trays. And I mean, here's a small lettuce. I don't even know if you can see on the camera, a small lettuce dude that's coming up. I planted these on Tuesday, today's Friday, so yeah, so not bad. And you can see here, so I found better success with herbs, soft leafy greens, that Swiss chard, cauliflower. I've already planted cabbage and broccoli, but I do seem to struggle particularly with the hotter crops. So peppers, sweet and hot peppers, I struggle with. So I need to work on a way to sort of retain and release more heat without a heat mat. Otherwise I'm just going to have to get a heat mat, and that's pretty much what I'll have to do going forward. So another thing that you really need to consider, and something that I've been testing over this period, is seed viability. So a lot of the seeds that I'm working with is actually old seed that I got from family members. Because of all the failures that I've had with regards to seeding, both direct and indirect, I started thinking, okay, maybe I just have old, unviable seed. So I did the germ test. All that is like what we did in, I think it was primary school or whatever. You take some toilet paper, you put seeds, 10 seeds within that toilet paper, you close the toilet paper so you've got like a TP sandwich with seeds. You moisten up, put in a paper, a plastic packet, and you put it in a nice warm spot. What that does is You have then adequate moisture. It does not dry out because it's in this plastic packet. And because you're putting it in a nice warm area, you're essentially creating this like mini greenhouse effect. So by doing that, you're able to see with your 10 seeds what your germination rate is. If it's 3 seeds that germinate, you've got a 30% germination rate. If 9 seeds out of 10 seeds germinate, you've got a 90% germination rate. It's really to eliminate variables and try and see, okay, is it maybe the seed itself that's a problem? So I've done that, and even there I had very spotty germination. But with that said, it also showed me that the seed that I was working with is not completely gone. I can still utilize it. So again, it's another point that just shows that an issue that I'm having is heat. On the topic of seed viability, so I've had a very interesting experiment over the season, and I mentioned it in the bean video. So behind me are some sunflowers. And what happened is, at the start of the 2024 growing season, so in September, I sowed some seed that I had saved from the last season. It had been drying out in my back rooms and everything, and I planted them up. I had phenomenal germination rate. So I let them grow up, I let them mature, I harvested the seeds, and then some of those fresh seeds, I didn't wait for them to dry out. Some of those fresh seeds, I then sowed those seeds. I had very poor germination rate. But what I find interesting is, with that exact same concept of using fresh seeds to plant straight into the ground, with regards to beans, that's self-seeded beans that I've planted up, and then my corn where I used fresh seed, also didn't wait for it to dry up or anything, I had phenomenal germination rate. So it makes me wonder if the issues that I had with my sunflowers was actually maybe that there was pests, birds, and maybe that one field mouse that's eating the seed. I don't know, but it's something that I've been wondering about. But on seed viability, it's nice to know that you can use fresh seed to germinate and go on, and I've had much better success also with that. Also to mention that all of those fresh seeds that I did use, they were mostly direct sown. So you might be asking yourself, well, Matthew, it sounds like you've got this pretty much figured out. And what I have behind me is a lot of basil and tomatoes that are self-seeded. I've actually had a lot of success, or more success, with direct sow than sowing in 6 cells and transplanting and all that sort of stuff. I don't have this figured out. It's pretty much, I have the theoretical understanding of what I think I need. I don't know if it's my practical execution of my knowledge. I don't know if that's the problem or if it's something else. What I will say is, with the direct sowing, because of the soil, right, there's a lot of thermal mass. So I think a very large factor, because this moisture is actually very easy to sort out. It's the heat which I think I'm struggling with, because there's a lot of thermal mass with the soil. So I think it's retaining a lot of heat, it's releasing a lot of heat, and it stays nice and consistent. Where I have it there, yes, I have the thermal mass from the tiles. Yes, it's absorbing a lot of heat. Yes, it's releasing some heat in the evenings, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's very consistent. I think there's a lot of temperature fluctuations, especially in the cooler hours of the morning. So I think that might be the main reason why I'm currently struggling. Beforehand, it was moisture, the watering canister, my watering method, the soil that I was using. Right now, I think my main issue is heat retention. Okay, so you might be sitting there once again thinking, Matt, it really sounds like you've got this figured out. You know where your success is, you know where your failure is, you suspect you've got this figured out from a heat standpoint. So what's the problem? I don't know, dude. To be honest. So going forward, what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to use the same mix, right? I want to try and germinate some seeds with that, like essentially with that germ test. I want to germinate them in my snake's cage to see. But I want to as well, with that same soil mix that I've mixed up with a little bit of compost and sawdust and stuff, I want to put on those little greenhouses, and then I'm actually going to put them in the open on soil. The idea is that with more thermal mass, there will be better heat retention, better heat release, especially in the evenings. So I'm hoping that helps from a heat standpoint. Obviously the little greenhouse will help with moisture. And what I also want to try and do is right next to, so let's say I've got a 6 cell here, next to it I'm also going to direct sow something. So I can do like almost like a direct comparison in the same location. Okay, this is direct sowing, this is in a 6 cell. I've got some beetroot or whatever. What's going on? Because for all I know is, okay, maybe I'm underwatering or overwatering it as well. So I need to start eliminating variables here. But going forward, I'm going to use that same mix and I'm going to try this little experiment. In the new season, however, I am going to, at the start of the season, because I'm going to germinate stuff inside, but at the start of the season, I'm going to rush to a nursery, purchase what I need, at least to start getting going, so that I don't waste a lot of time. Because I wasted a lot of time, especially with like peppers, tomatoes, and I still don't have brinjals, dude. I've been trying to germinate brinjals the entire season, and a bunch of other stuff. I've had so many failures because of seeds, and it's frustrating, but it's a valuable skill. We really, as gardeners that want to be self-sufficient, even if you don't want to be self-sufficient, you just want to garden for the sake of it and for the fun. This is a valuable skill that we all need. So I really want to get this going. So I hope this video was a little bit informative, and I hope that me just going through my thought process of what I think I've been doing wrong, even though I haven't figured it out, I hope it's been a little bit valuable to you guys. If you guys have any tips or tricks or any general advice for seed starting, please put it down in the comments. I really need some help with this. And I think all of us can really benefit from all the additional information. Because, again, I just feel that this is one of those base skills that everybody needs if you want to not necessarily just be successful in the garden, but if you want to just try stuff for the sake of experimentation. Try different varieties, and and if you enjoy hearing me ramble on about gardening stuff, I suggest you check out my playlist. There's a whole bunch of other stuff here.